Hello everyone, this is part 12 of What If Naruto and Hinata trained together and a spark happened, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. 4 days after they had returned from the hidden sound, Naruto had been called to stand before a tribunal, although he had not been told why. Also, instead of one of the smaller meeting rooms in Ninja Ops, he was instead summoned to the enclosed stadium, where the chunin semi-finals had been held, just over 3 years prior. Naruto stepped forward, looking around at those surrounding him. In the center, in front of him, sat Gaara and Tsunade. On the Genin's right were the Konoha elders, Homura, Koharu, and Danzo. And on his left a slightly longer table held Kakashi, Jiraiya, Guy, and Temari. Behind him a huge crowd observed. The Leaf Shinobi currently in the village, the Sand Ninja who had participated in the Sound invasion, and many of the Konoha civilians, all watched with anticipation. He saw Hinata's sorrowful face, and Hanabi's smug look, with Hiashi sandwiched between them, impassive. Sakura caught his eye, and she too looked worried. He recognized Ino clutching Chuji's hand tightly. He also saw Mousy Karen from the general store, the old merchant what's his name, the waitress from the Golden Shoe, and the entire staff of Ichiraku Ramen. Naruto Uzumaki, Tsunade announced harshly, "You have been called before this ninja tribunal to answer for your actions during the liberation of the Hidden Sound village. Namely, that you disobeyed an order from your squad leader, a higher-ranking shinobi. Moreover, you did so in the middle of a battle. We need to hear your side of the story, Naruto," Kakashi urged. "There ain't much to say," the teen answered. "Gaara was seriously hurt by Kabuto. He ordered us to go back, so he could fight Kabuto alone. I told Sakura and Hinata to take Gaara back to the medics, that I would fight Kabuto. When they tried to protest, I left, sealing the door behind me. With no choice, they took Gaara back, and I went after Kabuto. Simple. What we need to know is why you disobeyed your squad leader's order," Koharu prompted. The Kazekage testified he does not remember what happened after his injury. "And your other teammates seem to think that the Kazekage might have been unconscious when he gave that order, or somehow otherwise mentally incapacitated." "I don't know about that," Naruto interrupted, shaking his head. "So they are lying, to cover for you," Danzo asserted quickly, a hungry gleam in his single, dark eye. "I didn't say that," Uzumaki protested. "Look, I'm not Gaara. I don't know what he was thinking at the time, or what he remembers now. And I don't have Sakura's medical training, or Hinata's Kekkei Genkai. And to top it off, I know a guy who can fight while asleep. So, if those two say Gaara was out of it, they are probably right, especially if he doesn't know what happened. But at the time, I didn't think that was the case." "Then why did you take matters into your own hands?" Temari asked. "Just because I didn't know he was giving out orders while unconscious, doesn't mean I didn't think he was wrong," he told them. "Gaara has developed a really strong desire to protect his friends and allies, and he also has a little bit of a death wish. And he really wanted revenge against Kabuto. I thought that all that baggage might be clouding his judgment, ya know. After all, the whole reason he picked me was for my experience fighting Kabuto, and I was still healthy. He seemed to be putting his own desires above the good of the mission. Besides that, Gaara is one of the 5 Kage, and I'm just some genin. If I died, some people would be sad, some might be happy or relieved, but life would go on. If Gaara had died, it would have thrown his village into turmoil, probably both our villages, and the land of air too. Then let me ask you this," Homura presented. "Sakura and Hinata were able to evacuate Gaara without any entanglements. If you knew that when you took charge, would you make the same choice? Or would you have had one of them come with you?" Naruto considered that for a second, and then said, "No. They might have made it out safe, but they had a couple of close scrapes. If Hinata hadn't been there, Sakura would have probably run into that patrol or one of the fights. And Hinata doesn't have Sakura's strength or medical training, so she might not have gotten Gaara out as quickly or in as good of shape." "Look," Naruto snapped slightly, even though he knew it was a mistake, "I'm not going to say I made a wrong move. I'm not happy I was forced to disobey orders, but I still think I made the right choice. Everyone here would be happier if we knew for sure that Kabuto was dead, but at the very least I was able to maim him, and drive him out. And every member of my team survived. So if you're gonna bust me back to the academy, or even decommission me, just do it. Tsunade looked at her counterparts. Each of the other shinobi nodded, except for Danzo. Her gaze settled on him, and his single eye glared back. Finally, he waved his hand in annoyed agreement. She stood, shifting her stare back to the genin. Naruto, there seems to be a slight misunderstanding here, she said sternly. This trial is to judge you, but not to punish you. We all know that things change in the heat of battle. A ninja must be adaptable. A good shinobi follows orders, but a great one needs to know when the orders must be stretched or even disobeyed. It takes wisdom to see what is right, what is needed. And it also takes a special kind of courage to act on that insight. Up until now, there has been some doubt as to whether you had that kind of good sense. But your actions, and your defense of them, have convinced us of your growth. Her face shifted subtly, from lecturing, to proud. Therefore, it is my great honor, in the name of this tribunal and the village hidden in the leaves, to grant you the rank of chunin, with all the privileges and responsibilities thereunto pertaining. She smiled warmly at him. Congratulations, Naruto. Almost as one, the gallery surged to their feet, shouting. Naruto just stood there, dumbfounded, as his friends swarmed around him. Kiba shouted in his ear, and Choji hit him on the back so hard he nearly fell. The tribunal also stood, the members of the Jonin Council moving to join the rest of the well-wishers. The two Kage and two of the elders remained by their seats, but Danzo stalked out of the stadium. But still Uzumaki did not react. The Hokage's words were echoing in his head. Wisdom to see, courage to act, he considered the words. Realizing he was surrounded, he started to look around the crowd. Someone shook his hand, and someone else hugged him, but he did not notice who. There was only one face that he wanted to see. And then she was there. Her eyes were still wet with tears of fear, but her smile was as radiantly joyful as he had ever seen. Congratulations, Naruto, she said, her soft, kind voice full of approval. She blushed, as his right hand reached up, and gently touched her cheek. He cupped her face, marveling at the feel of her soft skin. Naruto. The girl sounded confused, but he was not confused anymore. His left hand moved, wrapping around her body. He placed his fingers into the wonderfully familiar small of her back, and pulled her gently towards him. His right hand guided her lips to his. And in that instant, she was all he knew. He felt her put her arms around him, pulling them together, pressing her lithe body to him, crushing her breasts against his chest. He could smell her skin and hair, and marveled at the gentle plumpness of her lips against his. He moved his hand slightly up her back, and she shuddered in pleasure. He shifted his face, changing the angle of his attack, so not an inch of her lovely mouth went unattended. Finally, either 20 seconds or 100 years later, the need to breathe overtook them and they broke apart. I love you too, Hinata, Naruto said earnestly, passionately, looking deep into her eyes. Hinata Hyuga, however, could not speak. She wasn't sure she would still be standing, had she not been holding him. Then suddenly, they both became aware. The tone of the cheers had changed. The shouts of congratulations were covered by wolf whistles and catcalls. The elders and the Hokage put on airs of annoyance at the display, but it was an obvious act. No, in the whole of the gallery there were only 3 faces that were not pleased, amused, or both. Hiashi Hyuga's emotions were still carefully controlled, but there was a strain to his neutral mask. Hanabi Hyuga glared at her sister and Naruto, not bothering to hide her feelings of rage and betrayal. But Sakura Haruno could not look at her teammate. The medical kunoichi had turned away, and was looking down at the stone floor, tears running slowly down her face. Her moist eyes spoke of sadness and disappointment. After a moment, she began to carefully push her way through the crowd. Only one person noticed her leave. When they realized they had kissed in front of most of the Leaf Village, and a substantial part of the Sand Village, both shinobi turned beet red. Hinata almost lost her balance, despite their embrace. Let's get out of here, Naruto suggested. Okay. Naruto took a smoke bomb from his belt, and dashed it on the floor next to them. When the obscuring cloud cleared, they were gone. The cheering gave way to laughter, and the assembled friends and allies of Naruto settled down. It's about time, Tsunade commented to Gaara and Jiraiya. The Kazekage nodded, with a tiny smile, while the Toad Sage smirked knowingly. Oh man, Shikamaru waved his hand in mock annoyance. Somehow, in the crush and flow of the crowd, he had ended up standing next to Temari. This is too much. I need some air, he commented, then looked towards her with one eye closed. Catching his obvious invitation, she nodded. It is getting crowded. I think I'll join you. The pair exited the stadium. Shikamaru slumped up against a tree, not quite looking at her. Temari started to ask him a question, but he began venting first. You know, I'd count Naruto as one of my best friends, after Choji and Kiba. Not that that was always the case, he admitted to the Sand Kunoichi, but sometimes, I kinda hate the guy. He keeps pushing me to do things I didn't plan on doing. Sometimes literally. She looked at him with uncertainty, and he suddenly started to glare at her. You are arrogant, pushy, aggressive, and violent. You're a ninja, and worse a ninja from another village, he told her directly, and you are way too intelligent and beautiful for my own good. Temari started to prepare a sharp retort at his rant, but it died with his final statement. I had a plan, he sighed. I was going to wait until I was at least 20 to make chunin, if then. So I could avoid leadership, or really dangerous missions. Then I would find a girl, a nice, quiet girl, pretty but not too pretty. And definitely not a ninja. Instead, I was a chunin before I was a teenager, the first in my class. I keep getting put in charge, and sent on these tough jobs. And now I'm falling for this woman who is the exact opposite of everything I thought I wanted. She sniffed, sure this was some sort of game. But he looked back at her, dropping his cool persona. I like you, Temari. Capital L, like. Don't care that your brother is the scariest person I've ever met, like. She smiled at that. Then she realized what he said, and that he was being honest. Her humorous smile changed to a coy smile. She pinned him against the tree, and leaned in close. I like you too, she told him back, don't care that you're lazy, slightly misogynistic, and too smart for my own good, like. Then she kissed him on the cheek. She drew back blushing, and asked, so what now? For starters, we could hang out at the party. Maybe dance if they have any decent music, he suggested. Okay, she agreed. After an instant of thought, she counted, wait, what party? That knucklehead gets the first battlefield promotion this village has handed out in like 40 years, and you think there isn't going to be a party? If I'm right, and I usually am, he said immodestly, old man Jiraiya probably started planning something as soon as the Hokage told him about this. If not, I'd guess the others will whip up something. Then we need to go back in, she ordered, grabbing his hand. He smiled, but also thought, I'm going to make you pay for this, Naruto. The finally official couple sat on the stone head of Minato Namikaze, watching the yellow and orange of the setting sun play off the wispy clouds. Their legs touched, almost entwining, and each clung to the other's hand. Naruto's left hand reached up to Hinata's chin, lifting her face for their fourth kiss, and she responded enthusiastically. When they broke apart again, Hinata sighed sadly. What, I'm a bad kisser? Naruto asked with concern. Oh no, she answered quickly, tightening her grip as if afraid he would leave. This was definitely worth the wait. He relaxed, and she told him, I was just thinking we should probably go back. Everyone else will want to see you, and it's not fair to keep you to myself. I wouldn't be surprised if everyone is still there, waiting for you. Too bad, Naruto smirked. Those guys should understand that I want to spend time with my new girlfriend. Goo, girlfriend. The word hit Hinata like a rockslide jutsu. She was kissing Naruto. She was Naruto's girlfriend. She and Naruto might. Hinata's eyes glazed over and she started to collapse backwards onto the carved cliff. Naruto caught her with a look of dismay. Come on, Hinata, he pleaded. I thought we were past the whole fainting thing. Is this going to happen every time we make out? Make out, she mumbled, turning red despite her unconscious state. Naruto set her down gently, then ran a finger tenderly down her cheek. His dismayed look turned to one of fond devotion. We'll just have to keep working on it, he said affectionately, because you're right, it was worth the wait. Hinata Hyuga awoke with a smile, for the 16th consecutive day. Since that wondrous event, each day had been better than the last. They had been spending just as much time together as before, but now their meetings were not just training and Dutch treat meals. She was adapting to romantic encounters with Naruto, managing not to faint on any of their last 3 dates. To his credit, Naruto was still taking it slow, and he never displayed any annoyance or impatience when she became overwhelmed. She stretched, and gently turned off her alarm. She looked out her window, and the rain did not diminish her grin. She folded back her covers, and her nightclothes fluttered around her. Her white eyes fell on the calendar on the wall, and she realized it was time to turn to the next month. September had come and gone faster than she had expected. But as she flipped the placard up, Hinata was suddenly filled with panic. There it was, something she had noted almost 11 months ago, when she had no inkling of how the year would play out. Naruto Uzumaki 16 inches was written in her neat script on the 10th of October. When she had marked it in the box, Naruto had been a friend, and not an especially close one. Then she had eavesdropped, and misunderstood, leading to the slowly growing affections that had made them great friends, partners, and finally a romantic couple. 16 was the coming-of-age year in the Land of Fire, the most conservative of the 5 great nations. In 9 days, Naruto would be a full legal adult, no longer trapped in the semi-adult limbo of an underage shinobi. He would be able to vote in village civilian matters, own commercial property, get married. Hinata felt weak in the knees when she considered that. But she forcefully recalled her earlier terror. She only had 9 days, and she hadn't even started planning. Normally, a 16-year-old's family would throw them a big party for the graduation to adulthood. But Naruto was alone, and so Hinata felt the privilege, and the burden, fell to her. She was sure Kakashi or Tsunade, or Sakura, would help if she asked, but she wanted to do this for Naruto on her own. I need to send out invitations, she muttered to herself, taking pen and paper from her desk, and beginning to write down names. Then she stopped, and set the notebook down. But I can't send out invitations until I have a location, she told herself, her anxiety growing. It has to be someplace big enough for everyone. So Naruto's apartment is out. I don't think father will agree to host it here. The golden shoe would be great, but it might be too expensive, maybe just an outdoor party. Hinata pulled on her summer robe, and wandered downstairs to the dining room, still mumbling to herself. She grabbed a slice of toast, spread some jam on it, and began to absently chew on the morsel, all without acknowledging her father or sister. The chunin exited while still eating, murmuring, and it can't just be ninja tools, not now, and especially not for his 16th. What was that all about? Hiyashi queried his younger daughter. Naruto's birthday is soon, she only slightly sneered when she said the teen's name, and my guess is she forgot. The Hyuga clan leader nodded, a thoughtful look on his face. Naruto glanced up at the sun again, trying to gauge the time. His teachers would have yelled at him, for still having trouble with such a basic skill. He would have checked his phone, but he had, accidentally, left it in the charger on his desk, as he often did. Uzumaki was starting to get worried. Though he did occasionally arrive at the usual spot first, it was very rare for Hinata to make him wait more than a few minutes. By his inexpert evaluation, his partner was either 20 minutes late, or just under 2 hours past due, depending on whether or not the sun had passed the midpoint. I'm sorry, Naruto, the Hyuga heiress was panting slightly as she ran up. It's no problem, he answered, leaning in close for a quick peck on her lips. What kept you? She stammered, upset by the simple question. She looked away, casting about for an excuse. I was talking to Kurenai-sensei about our upcoming mission, she eventually forced out, unevenly. I wanted her advice. And we lost track of time. I guess being on maternity leave must be tough for her, he noted. He could tell she was lying, and though curious, he decided not to force the issue, yet. Oh, yes it is, she agreed, relieved. She misses our team, and missions, and yet she is more tired than I have ever seen her. But little Saru-chan is so cute. Well, should we get started? He asked, the same set again. What? Oh, she looked down at her feet, but, I thought maybe you would want to work on your techniques today. No way, you're getting so close to mastering that new move, he argued. Then he adopted a silly grin. Besides, I get to work on my taijutsu and chakra control when I help you, so it's all good. Alright then, she nodded. She created a clone, and then adopted a fighting stance. Shadow clone jutsu, he proclaimed, splitting himself in 5. Each formed a Rasengan, and they surrounded the girls. Ah, Naruto. Can I ask you something? Hinata stammered when they took a break from their training. He looked up from his rice ball, made curious by her trepidation. Sure. Hinata, what is it? Well, is there something you want? Naruto blinked at the odd and open-ended question. What do you mean, Hinata? He asked carefully. The girl struggled for an instant, and then blurted out, well, it's just that Yuletide is coming, and now that we are dating, I didn't want to just get you kunai or other ninja equipment, I want to get you something fun, something outside work. Like maybe a television. You don't have a TV in your apartment. And if you had one, you could get a video player, and all the Princess Gale movies. She trailed off, realizing she was babbling. Nah, I don't want a TV. Naruto relaxed slightly now that he understood Hinata's anxiety. I'm fine with just the radio. Besides, where would I put it? Okay, then what about a new radio? Maybe one with a CD player. Is there any music you want? Or what about books? Isn't there a new novel in the Gale Gaiden series? Or... He interrupted her by grabbing her hand. Hinata, you don't have to get me anything special for Yuletide, he told her firmly, you've already given me so much. You helped me grow, both as a person and as a ninja. And you filled an emptiness in me I barely knew was there. Thanks to you, I finally know what it means to really be in love. There's nothing more I could ask for without being way too selfish. Besides, he lightened up and grinned, you already gave me Kitsune's scabbard. The kunoichi nodded, blushing. She gently took back her hand and began to nibble at her own snack. After he finished his mochi, Naruto spoke again. So what do you want for Yuletide, Hinata? He asked, and your birthday too, since they're so close together. What? She almost jumped at his question. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and her voice rose in confusion as she counter-queried, are you going to get me something? Of course, Naruto proclaimed, slightly offended, what kind of boyfriend do you take me for? But, you just said. Huh, what did I just say? Naruto was now the one who was puzzled. Hinata regarded him in amazement for a moment. Then she realized he could not see that everything he had said also applied for her. I don't know, she shook her head, you'll have to let me think about it. Hinata finished her rice ball, more determined than ever to make Naruto's birthday perfect. Even if she only had 8 days left. Good afternoon, Miss Hyuga. Koji Kintabi, the day manager and part owner of the Golden Shoe, stood up from his desk and bowed as the young woman was shown into his office. What can I do for you today? He offered her a chair, and Hinata sat gingerly. I am, throwing a party, she informed him, and the Golden Shoe was one of the places I was considering. It would be an honor if you chose us. Koji grinned broadly. Are you thinking of renting one of the private rooms or the entire restaurant? Oh. The kunoichi had not been aware of that possibility, and was flustered by the question. I hadn't thought about that. The manager nodded, his smile becoming more gentle, as he did when handling first-time hosts. Well, part of that will depend on the number of guests. How many attendees? She considered that, and then answered, it should be around 30, assuming a few cannot make it. He in turn looked thoughtful, and explained, the private rooms are generally for groups of 10 or so guests. You could reserve both, but then your guests would be split into 2 groups and it might be a little cramped. So the whole building would be best. She followed where he led, but how much is it to charter the whole building? Kintabi slid open a drawer, and handed the teen a pamphlet. When Hinata saw the prices, her eyes widened perilously. That does not include food, he offered, sympathetic but honest. Hinata nodded, but did not return the price list. I guess I should find out if the day I want is open, she suggested, before I start making any decisions. The proprietor opened another drawer, and withdrew an expansive date book. What date were you planning on? He asked, flipping past the first dozen or so pages. The 10th, the Hyuga heiress answered. Of December. He flipped back 2 pages, biting his lip, let me check. No, of October. With a sigh, the co-owner closed the book. That is not possible. Whole premises events must be booked at least 2 months in advance, so we have adequate time to prepare, and to rearrange any reservations. And either way, one of the private rooms is booked for next Friday, so it would not be possible to rent you the entire building. Hinata smiled sadly, and stood. I understand, she said quietly, thank you for your time. I hope this won't affect your and Mr. Uzumaki's continued patronage. He appeared honestly disappointed and concerned. No, it won't. She looked back and shook her head, forcing a larger smile. I really do understand. He sat back down as the young woman left, feeling a slight twinge of guilt. Shikamaru, Hinata flagged down the genius chunin. Can I talk to you for a second? Hinata, he acknowledged, slowing, what can I do for you? Are you busy on the 10th? She asked. That would be next Friday, right? She nodded. Choji and I have a mission next week. He tried to remember. We leave Thursday and won't be back until Monday or Tuesday the week after. Oh, okay. The girl turned away, crestfallen. Why? He asked, what's up? Oh, it's Naruto's birthday, she admitted, and I'm trying to throw him a party. But so far, everyone I have talked to will be away on missions or other business. Then she looked up at him, urgently, but don't tell him, please. It's supposed to be a secret. I won't, he assured her. Then he frowned, everyone's booked, huh? I guess the Hokage can't really schedule missions around our birthdays, otherwise we'd always be at half strength. You're right, she agreed sadly. She began to walk away, adding, I'll see you later, Shikamaru. As she paced back towards her house, he heard her sigh, maybe something smaller, then. The dear herder's heart went out to her, but there was nothing he could do. Hinata could not help but feel depressed as she looked down the list. Team 10 and Team Hisashi both had missions, which meant Shikamaru, Choji, and Ino were all unavailable, as was Iruka-sensei. Shino had to attend to Aberrane clan business. Team Guy was out currently, so she had not been able to ask Neji, Lee, or Tenten. She had approached the crew of Ichiraku, but Yuki did not want to close up shop, even if Naruto was his favorite customer. She had sent a simple invitation to Gaara and his siblings, but she expected they would also be busy. Konohamaru had accepted, until Mogi had reminded him they would be on a training trip. And she had not been able to find Kiba, Shizune, Kakashi-sensei, or Sakura yet. The Hyuga heiress pushed herself away from her desk. She couldn't fault everyone, especially at this late date. Maybe if she had remembered sooner. At least a smaller group made planning everything easier. Making up her mind, she circled the names of Kakashi, Sakura, Shizune, and added the names of the two Sannin to the now abbreviated list. Only Naruto's closest friends, his surrogate family. Except for Iruka-sensei, she reflected, but I won't take no for an answer from any of the others. And with this small of a group, maybe I can still rent the shoe's other private room. No, Tsunade said simply and directly, I'm sorry to be blunt Hinata, but it's just not possible. We have a dozen teams already in the field, and 7 more heading out next week. There's no way I can rearrange my schedule for a party. We are too busy. Hinata looked to Shizune for support, but the younger medic could only smile sadly and shake her head as well. But, the teen tried to argue, but it's Naruto's 16th. His majority. And that is why I have graciously avoided sending out either of you. The Hokages seemed to be struggling to avoid raising her voice. She let out a harsh breath, and continued more evenly, Hinata, I understand where you are coming from, but there's nothing more I can do. Other priorities come first. You'll just have to make the most of the day with whoever is available. Her white eyes grew damp, and she looked down at the floor in defeat. Thank you for your time, Lady Hokage, Shizune, she bowed without looking up, and then left the Konoha leader's office. She trudged out of the operations center, dejected. She had not been able to contact Jiraiya, and now Tsunade and Shizune had flatly refused. That left only Kakashi-sensei and Sakura. Sakura had been avoiding her since the party celebrating Naruto's promotion even if she could approach them, and both agreed, 4 people was hardly a party. Hinata was momentarily distracted from her defeatism, when something warm and squishy pressed against her back. 2 muddy arms wrapped around her body, and 2 lips pecked her cheek. N.A. Naruto. She stuttered, hoping no one else would be that forward. The hugging shinobi detached himself, and she turned to look at him. Though his face was more or less clean, thankfully, from the neck down, he was coated dripping, green muck. And now so was the back of her shozaku. When he realized how dirty he had gotten her, he grinned sheepishly. Sorry, Hinata, he said, we just got back, and I kinda forgot I was such a mess. If you wanna come over, I'll throw your clothes in the laundry with mine. She blushed deeply at the suggestion, and he hastily added, I mean, I'll lend you something to wear while I do the wash. Smiling slightly, she shook her head, and told him, that's alright, Naruto. He flashed his teeth happily, at least you look a little less down. What do you mean? She stuttered a denial. I saw you, and you looked pretty sad, he answered, so I hoped I could cheer you up. Oh. She remembered her failure, and her frown returned. There you go again, his lips turned down too. Then he grunted, with a determined look. Come on, he wrapped his arm around hers, making her even more filthy, and gently dragged her back to his apartment. Naruto had quickly showered, and changed into civilian clothes. When he was done, the shinobi set out a t-shirt, shorts, and a towel for her in the bathroom. She removed her uniform, and handed it out to him, hiding behind the door while still in her underwear. I'll go put these in the wash, he told her on his way out. Thank you, she said, slightly relieved that he was gone. The idea of taking a shower with him in the other room was still too embarrassing. After she finished disrobing, she carefully undid her braid, trying not to spread the sludge all over Naruto's bathroom. She stepped into the shower, and let the water rinse the layer of drying, caking dirt from her left arm and her now loose hair. She gave her locks a light washing with Naruto's off-brand shampoo. After drying herself, she quickly dressed. Fortunately, the tightly woven fabric of her uniform had shielded her underwear from the mess. The shirt Naruto had lent her was deep blue, and though clean, also smelled faintly of him. It fell well past her waist, he was tall enough she could almost have worn it as a short dress. Like the t-shirt, the shorts were too big for her, but she tucked the shirt in, and belted them tight, and they did not fall past the flare of her hips. She left her hair loose, to dry and because she was in a hurry. But as she closed the bathroom door behind her, Hinata was grasped by indecision. I should go, she thought, before he comes back and asks about. But it would be rude to just leave. And if someone sees me in his clothes? She blushed at the implication. Before she could make up her mind, the door swung inwards, and Naruto walked in, holding an empty, and slightly muddy, basket in front of him. She looked down, unable to meet his eyes. Naruto set the bin down, and crossed the room in 3 long strides. Before she realized it, he had wrapped his arms around her. He held her gently yet tightly. It was not a romantic embrace, but one of comfort. Hinata, he whispered, you gotta tell me what's going on. First you were acting distant, that last time we had a chance to train. Then I come back from a mission to find you wandering around, looking totally defeated. I haven't seen you like this since Neji tried to run you off during the semi-finals. And it doesn't seem like I can just shout at you not to give up this time. She smiled, just a little, and pressed herself harder against his chest. You know I'll do anything I can to help you out, but I can't do anything unless you tell me what's bothering you. Hinata pondered that. The fact that she was worrying him made her feel worse. But she did not want to tell him about the surprise. What surprise? She said to herself, her mental voice slightly bitter. He continued to gaze at her, kind, yet concerned. She took a deep breath and exhaled, letting out her disappointment and last bit of hope with her breath. Do you know what Friday is? She finally asked. Naruto closed his eyes and frowned as he thought hard about that. She almost giggled at his exaggerated expression, but she wasn't quite there yet. Today's the 7th so that would make Friday the 10th, he answered. Right, the 10th of October, she said pointedly. Wait, don't tell me this is about my birthday, it was his turn to be upset. She nodded and he queried, but why? I've been trying to put together a party for you, she felt relieved at the admission, but nothing is working out. I couldn't find a place, and no one can come, and you wouldn't tell me what you wanted, and. She began to cry lightly, and Naruto released her with his right hand so he could brush away her tears. Hinata, he admonished affectionately, you know that my birthday isn't important. It's just another mark on the. She pushed away, shaking her head angrily. You told me, remember, she argued, that you had tried to convince yourself that it didn't matter, but it was a facade. That it still hurt to be ignored and forgotten. I didn't say that, he countered weakly. Not in those words. But I could see how you really felt, underneath your bravado. She exhaled again, resting her head back against his chest, and this isn't just another birthday, it's your 16th. It should be important. You should get to have a big party just like everyone else. I want you to have that. I want to be the one to give you that. Well, it doesn't have to be a big party to be special, he suggested, taking her back into his arms. But I can't even seem to manage a small party, the kunoichi confided. Everyone I have asked so far has had missions, or other plans. Even Lady Tsunade. Work doesn't stop for our birthdays, he noted. You and Kiba and Shino missed Choji's party because of those bandits. Sakura and I were late to Kiba's party when that escort job ran long. But everyone. She realized she was whining now, but could not stop herself. It seems like it's just the two of us. Nothing wrong with that, he squeezed her a little. Then he grinned as if something had occurred to him. Why don't we? He asked. Why don't we what? She tilted her head back, confused. Forget everybody else, he explained, plan for just the two of us. How's that different from a normal date? She seemed unconvinced. That's up to you, he told her, before putting on a front of false annoyance. You don't expect me to plan my own birthday party, do you? He struggled to maintain the act, and she giggled at his silliness. Relieved that she was feeling better, Naruto's goofy grin returned. Somewhat reluctantly, he released her. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for lunch, he proclaimed. Let's go get something to eat, he suggested, remembering the unfortunate state of his refrigerator. Hinata looked down at her, or rather his, clothes and shrank back from the door. Or you can hang out here, and I'll go get something. We should probably be here for the laundry anyway. How about pizza? I'm suddenly craving pizza. Hinata was only half listening, already starting to think of new plans. Naruto woke up, confused. He felt oddly rested, but at the same time totally out of place. The room was too bright, the smell was tantalizing yet not entirely familiar, and there was a strange crackling noise. He glanced over at the nightstand, half expecting it would not be there. But it was, and his little digital clock read 8:53. He sat bolt upright in bed. He had overslept by almost 3 hours. He could have sworn he had turned on his alarm. As he started to scramble out of bed, the odor clarified in his mind. Bacon. Good morning, Naruto. Happy birthday. Hinata. Uzumaki's head whipped around so fast he almost got a crick in his neck. She was standing before the burner in his kitchenette, fully dressed and fully awake. I had hoped I would be able to wake you up, she sounded slightly disappointed. She moved the bacon from the skillet to the plate, and placed the plate on a tray he had not seen before. He presumed she had brought it with her. Hinata, what's going on? Breakfast in bed, she said, placing the tray over his lap, and then scooting in beside his legs. It held the half-pound of bacon she had fried, a dozen assorted donuts and pastries, and glasses of milk, orange juice, and apple juice. I'm not a very good cook, she said, looking over the meal, but I thought it would be a good start to the day. No, this is Grem. The last word was cut off as he jammed half of a cinnamon roll into his mouth. After choking down the confection, he picked up a couple of slices of bacon, juggling them back and forth between his hands until they were cool enough to eat. After quickly chewing through them, he took a swig of orange juice. Then he paused and put the cup down slowly. Wait, how did you get in here? He asked suddenly, and did you turn off my alarm? Hinata's hand froze on its way to the lemon Danish, and she looked down at the sheet covering his knees. Oh, thought you should sleep in for a change, and I wanted it to be a surprise, so I picked the lock and turned off your alarm, she answered, flustered. I didn't think you would mind. Naruto worriedly waved his hand in front of him. It's fine. It's great. It's just a little forward for you, Hinata. She actually looked happy to hear that, and picked up the pastry. I didn't know you could pick locks, he commented as she took a bite. That's pretty cool. Where'd you learn that? Hinata almost choked as her amazement, desire to answer, and manners warred within her mouth. After a tense moment, she swallowed the tart. Most all chunin can pick simple locks, she said, trying to amend the statement as it left. Meaning everyone but me. No, she denied. Lee never bothered to learn, Tenten told me. And Shino doesn't pick locks, He just has his bugs open the lock. There might be others. Oh, I suppose that's not too bad then, he admitted, taking another slice of the pork, but still, never mind, not today, right. He smiled at her broadly. So what's next, Hinata? Training. No training today, she smiled coyly, I was thinking we could get some exercise another way. Hinata loosened her uniform, and began to pull it down over her left shoulder. The young man's eyes widened, and he leaned back as far as he could, not looking at her. Hinata, I didn't think you would, not that I don't want to, he stammered rapidly. Pervert, she admonished gently, with none of the anger or blunt force trauma that usually accompanied Sakura's use of the word. He finally looked at her, and quickly understood. Underneath her Shozaku's top, the Hyuga heiress was not wearing a bra, but instead her two-tone blue swimsuit. The weather is pretty warm, but it is still October, so the waterfall lagoon probably won't be in use. I thought we could go for a swim after breakfast. He just blinked. If that's okay, she added slowly. Okay. He grabbed her hand, excited, it's brilliant, Hinata. I would never have thought of that, but going swimming sounds great. Then slightly more serious, he added, you gotta relax, Hinata. I'm sure I'll love anything you planned. Okay, she nodded. His eyes locked on her face, and her released her hands to reach up and snag a bit of pastry and frosting clinging to her cheek. He popped the crumb in his mouth. That's the kinda sugar Papa likes, he told her slyly. She knew he was just quoting a song title, but she couldn't help but grin and blush. He smirked back at her, and she leaned towards him. Naruto responded enthusiastically to her uncommon initiative, and kissed her warmly. When they broke apart, the look of glorious contentment on her face filled his heart. I don't know what I did to deserve you, he said, slightly hoarse. I love you, too, Naruto, she touched his face. They started to meet again, but were interrupted by a loud bubbling rumble in his gut. Fine, he growled, reaching for a chocolate-glazed ring. I guess he wants the other kind of sugar, he told Hinata regretfully. She giggled, and resuming her own meal. Mood killer, Uzumaki glared at his belly. His stomach just burbled happily in response. On their way back from swimming, the pair had stopped at Ichiraku for a quick lunch. All morning, Naruto had tried to wheedle and weasel details out of her, but Hinata stood her ground, even when writhing on the sandy beach from his tickle attack. After they finished eating, she had instructed him to go home and change into something nice, and that she would rejoin him in an hour. Though he had thought he knew where they were going, Hinata had again shocked him by taking him to one of the Konohagaku's movie theaters for a matinee of the newly released Dragon Zone 2. Doubly so, because he knew Hinata did not like police action dramas as much as he did, preferring instead romantic comedies or fantasy films. Hinata managed to enjoy the movie, or more accurately, she enjoyed Naruto's enjoyment. But why'd you make me get dressed up to go to a movie? Naruto abruptly asked as they walked away from the movie house. Because I knew we wouldn't have time to go change before dinner, she told him. Does that mean? Of course, she beamed at him, where else? Where better? They were obviously expected at the Golden Shoe. A slim man, only a few years older than him, was waiting inside the door. Lady Hyuga, Master Uzumaki, right this way, he addressed them without preamble. They followed him to the smaller of the dance hall's 2 private rooms. Designed for 6 to 10 people, it seemed a little large for the 2 of them. As per Hinata's instructions, the room was decorated with a large, happy birthday sign, and numerous streamers. There were only 2 tables, one set up for eating, and another containing a small cake in 3 wrapped packages. Dancing will start at 7, as per normal, the acting manager told them. Then he indicated a phone and a slightly oversized switch on the outside wall. You may use this to call the bar for drinks, he instructed, and turn this on to signal your server. Thank you, Hinata inclined her head. Their host returned the bow, and left, closing the door behind him. Naruto stared around the room, open-mouthed. Hinata, he gaped, this is too much. No, she disagreed, but her happy expression did not change. You deserve much more than this, Naruto. Maybe next year. They didn't give us menus, he noted, examining the room in more detail. I ordered ahead, she told him, they will be serving dinner at 6 o'clock. She almost asked if that was fine with him, but remembered his earlier admonishment. So she bit her tongue, almost literally. So what's on the menu? He asked. That's a secret, she said. Okay, he accepted that. Then what do we do for the next half hour? Presents, she indicated the table. I'm no expert, but don't presents usually come after dinner. Usually, she agreed, bringing over the gifts, but there is one you need to open first, and it doesn't seem right to give you that one, and make you wait on the other two. He nodded, and asked, so which one is that? She pointed to the middle box, and Naruto removed it from the stack and set it behind the other two packages. She let her amusement show. He looked at her like a child begging for approval. Go ahead, she told him. Having been given permission, the often patient ninja tore into the first, smallest box. Under the bright orange paper, he recognized the logo of Emporium Karen. He knew it would contain a kunai, but he was only partly right. Stealth blades. He let his wonderment fill his voice as he looked at the trio of kunai in the case. Unlike most kunai, stealth blades were neither mass-produced, nor recyclable. Karen could only make 3 or 4 sets a year, and they were in high demand. The special knives were crafted to facilitate stealth mission in every way. Their surfaces were matte black, seeming to absorb the light around them. The blades were thinner, the handles shorter, and the loops were smaller, to make them easier to conceal. And most impressively, they were crafted from a secret ceramic, stronger than most steel, but resistant to chakra. This made the kunai very difficult to detect with machinery or jutsu. The blades were remarkable, and Naruto touched them with awe. You said you wanted to work more on your stealth and tracking skills, she reminded him, so I thought you might like them. Hinata, how? You told me you only started thinking about my birthday last week. Karen remembers who helped her when she first took over the store. She had a set stashed away for a rainy day. Thank you, he told her sincerely. Keep going, she urged. With the middle box set aside, Naruto began to peel the largest present. Inside the violet and gray striped wrapping was a portable stereo. It had a 2 CD changer, and taped to the outside of the box was the latest Princess Gale radio drama CD. I know you said your current radio was fine, she said, but you didn't say you didn't want an upgrade. He looked up at her with a teary, yet happy, grin. Man, Hinata, you can see right through me, can't you? Open the last one, she struggled to keep herself under control, but could not contain the redness that touched her cheeks. The last of the boxes was enclosed in green quinoa leaves on a white background. As he removed the concealer, a shoebox became visible. Naruto looked at it gingerly, wondering what she had hidden inside. The gift turned out to be exactly as advertised. Inside the box was a pair of stylish brown leather shoes. They were certainly more fitting with his outfit than the sneakers he had worn, but nevertheless. You got me shoes. He could not keep the confusion and small disappointment out of his tone. But Hinata was expecting that. I got you dancing shoes, she told him, just a tiny of smugness in her soft voice, formal enough to fit in at a fancy dance hall or high society party, but designed to be comfortable when spending hours on your feet. Realization and joy filled his eyes. That's why I had to open them now, he pointed out, suddenly loving the gift. He set the gifts all carefully on the table, and was on his feet in a second, hugging her. This is way too much, Hinata, he told her, you shouldn't. She silenced him by kissing him for the first time. Though she had been more than happy to accept his kisses, and even had occasionally indicated he should kiss her, this was the first time she had closed the gap instead of letting him. If you really feel that way, my birthday isn't that far off, she joked. I don't know if I could come up with anything to match this, he confided. She looked past him to her wrist, reading the word, strength, off her partially tangled bracelet. I'm sure you'll do fine, she told him. Outside the room, their host and a familiar waitress leaned away from the door. The young woman sighed broadly. The manager looked ready to comment, when a third figure approached. What are you two doing? The co-owner demanded. Just checking on our guests, the young woman answered as she scooted away. What guests? Room 2 wasn't booked. Well, Uncle Koji, the manager looked very self-satisfied. Room 2 wasn't booked, but you keep saying I need to take more initiative, so when a chance came to rent it for the night, I did. Really? The restaurateur was moderately impressed. To whom? Hinata Hyuga. The businessman blanched. He turned on his heel, and moved as quickly as he could back to his office. Well, Tsunade demanded of Kakashi and Neji as they returned. Both Jonin shook their heads. They aren't at Naruto's apartment, his teacher informed the Hokage. Nor are they at my family's home, Neji added. The leader of the Konohagakure Corps had figured as much when the runners returned alone, but her annoyance grew nevertheless. Ichiraku was closed, and all of their other normal hangouts had been told to turn him away. The original plan had been for Sakura and Kakashi to be with the couple, and to guide them to the arena. But Hinata had denied their expectations by never approaching Naruto's teammates. With their regular haunts theoretically closed to them, the organizers of the party were at a loss to the location of the birthday boy. What a drag, Shikamaru commented, looking around. Most of the partygoers had realized the guest of honor was missing, with varying degrees of confusion, amusement, and annoyance. I warned you that this might happen, Shino said dryly. Hinata can be very determined and very resourceful. We should have included her, Kiba said again, she could have kept this secret. We'll just need to widen our search. Then, Tsunade ignored them, they came back to the village just before noon, and have not been reported as leaving again, so they must. The rest of her statement was cut off as her phone rang. Her temper flared further, and she flipped open the device, snapping, "What is it? I'm busy here." "Ah yes, Lady Hokage." The voice of the frightened man was familiar to her, but she could not place it. "I believe I know why." "What? Who is this?" she demanded. "This is Koji Kintabi, at the Golden Shoe," he answered quickly. "You are looking for Naruto Uzumaki, are you not?" "Kintabi, are you saying?" She couldn't complete the sentence. The Hokage reigned in her anger. "I asked you not to give them a reservation." "And I did not." The owner of the dance hall bristled slightly. "But it seems my brother did not bother to relay your request to his son. And that ne'er-do-well finally took some initiative and rented one of our private rooms to Hinata Hyuga. The pair of them should be receiving their meals as we speak." He paused, waiting for her explosion. When she did not, he continued. "If you would like, I can pull the fire alarm," he offered, cringing inside at the disruption. "No." The medical Sanin suddenly smiled. "No, I have a better idea." "Thank you, Kintabi." "Sakura," she shouted, even as she closed her phone. The kunoichi darted over. Like most of the other guests, she wore civilian cloths, a yellow t-shirt and jean skirt. "What is it, Lady Tsunade?" she asked carefully. "How quickly can you get home and change into your uniform?" Naruto was getting ready to try on his new shoes when there was a knock at the door. Reluctantly, he set the present aside, as Hinata answered the summons. Outside was their waitress, carrying the tray with their meals. She deftly slid into the room with the large platter. The two shinobi sat down in a hurry. 2 Uzumaki sirloins, medium, she informed them, setting the plates before them, then set 3 bowls in between them, explaining, fried shoestring potatoes, sautéed mushrooms, and vegetable medley. And, of course, skim milk. She winked at Hinata, and quickly exited, closing the door behind her. Uzumaki sirloin, Naruto eyed the steak suspiciously. "Just try it," she urged, before cutting off a small piece of the entree and popping it into her mouth. Naruto sawed through the beef, and began to chew on the morsel slowly. His expression instantly changed to one of pleased amazement. He cut off a larger piece, and consumed it. "This is just like," he didn't finish the statement, because he was stuffing his face again. "Dipping it in pears," she concluded, as she finished her second bite in a more polite way. "It seems one of the head chefs was surprised by your order our first time here, and wanted to see what you did with the pear juice. He tried it, and liked it. They told me it took him the better part of a month to get the flavor balance just right. It just went on the menu last week, and it is proving to be pretty popular. I thought it was fitting for your birthday dinner." "Huh." The shinobi looked surprised. "I never thought I'd have a dish named after me." "That's pretty cool." He scooped a handful of fries onto his plate, and Hinata reached for the vegetables. But before they could begin the dinner in earnest, the door burst open. "Naruto, Hinata," Sakura panted, standing in the portal. Behind her, their server looked annoyed, and the assistant manager was concerned. "Thank goodness I found you. The Hokage has me and Kakashi-sensei looking everywhere for you too," the pink-haired kunoichi exclaimed. "There's an emergency mission, and we're the only ones available. Come on. We will watch your effects," the restaurant's supervisor offered, "or we can have them sent to your home." Naruto took out the stealth kunai, and passed one to Hinata. Sakura noted the blades with shock, and then annoyance. Can you just send the rest of this to my apartment? Naruto requested. The manager nodded. Including the leftovers and the cake, the Hyuga-chunin added. Of course. Let's go, you guys, Sakura urged impatiently. The couple followed her out. You got him stealth blades? Sakura asked Hinata. Naruto had lagged behind, and Sakura took the advantage. Hinata nodded, and the medic asked, why? He mentioned he wanted to work more on his espionage skills, the white-eyed beauty answered. He mentioned. Hinata nodded, and Sakura pressed, you don't even have any concrete plans. The Hyuga heiress shook her head. Must be nice to be rich, Haruno said derisively. Hinata bristled at that. We achieved the same ranks at the time, Sakura Haruno, her voice was sad, and lecturing at the same time, and even if I took any money from my clan, I would never use it to buy Naruto a present. The slightly older Kunoichi looked ready to counter again, but Naruto suddenly caught up. Guys, he tried to get their attention. Stay out of this, Sakura snapped at him. Man, Sakura, you don't have to bite my head off, he shot back, I just wanted to ask where we are going. Hinata suddenly realized they were headed away from the ops building. Lady Tsunade is at the arena, Sakura explained, looking mildly chagrined. She is working on getting it set up for a demonstration on Monday, for some potential clients. Since she did not know how long it would take to find you, she decided to keep working while we searched. Then the proverbial light bulb went off over her head. That reminds me, I should let Kakashi-sensei know I found you two. As Sakura took out her portable, she shot them both accusing looks for not carrying their own phones. Kakashi-sensei, I found them. We are on our way over now. Okay, good. We will see you there. He was close to the arena already, the medical Kunoichi explained. Hinata nursed a growing suspicion, but said nothing. Though slowed slightly due to Hinata's dress and shoes, it still took them under a minute to reach the Colosseum. Why is it dark? Hinata queried. Don't know, Sakura sounded confused, maybe they blew a fuse, or are testing a night obstacle course. Either way, we need to get to the Hokage. She led them inside, and as the doors closed behind them, Hinata activated her Byakugan. She was moderately taken aback by what she saw on the stadium floor, but she swallowed her reaction. Lady Tsunade, Sakura called, are you still here? I brought Naruto and Hinata. All of a sudden, the lights flared to life, and dozens of voices roared, Happy birthday, Naruto. After the first few hours of revelry, Kakashi and Iruka took to the stage, and called for everyone's attention. First off, can we get the birthday boy up here? Iruka requested. Naruto was pushed and prodded to the stage, and practically lifted onto the stone platform. Yumino walked to the other side of the stage, and retrieved a large glass bottle. Before we continue, Kakashi cleared his throat. For our guest who might not be aware, a little explanation might be in order. The copy ninja was looking at Gaara, Kankuro, Temari, and Matsuri as he said that, but his eyes also darted to Shin and Chiasabusata, Sasamfuma, and few of Naruto's other friends and acquaintances from outside the Land of Fire. In the Land of Fire, it is customary for a father to give his 16-year-old son a bottle of alcohol on his birthday. Of course, as the legal drinking age is 18, the boy cannot drink it. Instead, the gift represents a bond of trust, that the boy is now an adult and won't open the bottle until he is allowed. And it is also a promise, that once he is able to drink it, they will share that drink together. After the booze has had 2 extra years to age. Shikaku Nara shouted from the crowd. This set off scattered chuckles in the group. True enough, Hitaki nodded. Naruto, as your father is no longer with us, Iruka continued, we hoped you would let your busybody uncles fill in. He handed the teen the bottle. Naruto took it without complaint, looking a little soft around the eyes. Thanks, Uncle Iruka, Uncle Kakashi. Despite the mist in the corners of his blue orbs, his voice was mocking as he applied their self-branded familial titles. I wanted sake, Iruka told him as Naruto examined the bottle, but Kakashi wanted whiskey, and he won the coin toss. Thank you, this time Naruto was much more sincere. Remember, you can't open that for 2 years, Kakashi instructed. I know that, sensei, Naruto groused. Hinata finally worked up her nerve, and tracked down the Hokage. As she passed Ino and Tenten, she caught a snippet of conversation. So did the Hokage invite Nyoko? Yamanaka asked. Nyoko told me she had been invited, the weapons mistress answered, but the daimyo wouldn't let Nyoko come. He told her if she wanted to attend high school, like a normal student, she could not skip school for a birthday party, like a normal student. Even if he does approve of Naruto. Hinata wondered what that last statement meant, but before she could worry too much, she located the Sannin. She slid in quietly behind the village leader, but before she could pounce, Tsunade spoke. I really am sorry, Hinata, the blonde Sannin started without preamble, but I just wasn't sure you wouldn't let something slip around Naruto. The girl started to protest, but then remembered how quickly she had told Naruto about her failed party. I suppose I sort of understand. And I never could have done all this on my own, the Hyuga clan heiress added. Neither did I, her boss confided. I had a lot of help from Kakashi, Shikamaru, and even the old pervert. She glared at Jiraiya, who was trying to flirt with Gaara's apprentice. Lord Hiashi, Naruto had slipped away from Choji and Kiba, and approached Hinata's father. What can I do for you, Naruto? For once, Hinata's father wore a smile that was open and honest. I need to ask you something, Naruto fidgeted slightly, sort of a favor. What is it? Would you let me help plan Hinata's 16th birthday party? The younger ninja asked. That is quite impossible, the Hyuga Lord answered imperiously. Look, I know it's normally a family thing, but after everything Hinata tried to do, no, everything she did do for me today, Uzumaki pleaded, I need to do this for her. As I said, it is impossible, the girl's father said again, but then his voice became more gentle, as he explained, Naruto, we finished planning Hinata's party almost 2 weeks ago. In fact, I am somewhat dismayed we have not received your RSVP yet. RSVP. Naruto blinked, but I never got an invite. Hiashi's gaze shifted, but Naruto did not notice where it fell. I guess it must have gotten lost in the mail, or perhaps stuck to one of the other envelopes. I will have a replacement sent tomorrow. Naruto started to wonder if he was getting the brush off, until Hiashi added, if you have not received it by next Friday, come and see me directly. Naruto blinked, and stammered, thanks, old man. Hiashi merely inclined his head, to indicate it was of no consequence. But in doing so, he also hid the small grin at the familiar form of address. Naruto started to turn away. Oh. And Naruto, Hiashi caught his attention again. The boy looked back, and Hinata's father told him, happy birthday. Naruto grinned and offered his thanks again. But as soon as he had vanished back into the crowd, Hiashi's eyes began to search for his younger daughter. October 10th ended, but the party did not. When the clock struck 1, the crowd began to thin. Tsuki and Ayami begged off, claiming the need to open Ichiraku for breakfast in only a few hours. Mogi dragged Konohamaru and Udon away soon after. In the end, all that was left was Naruto. Most of the group Hinata had called his family, plus Anko and Gaara. As the party had narrowed, Tsunade had started to withdraw, obviously distracted. So, Naruto? Anko asked conspiratorially, now that you're an adult, are you going to move out of the barracks? The Hokage jumped a little at that. The barracks existed for any Leaf Shinobi who, for whatever reason, did not have a house or apartment of their own. It also housed academy students whose families did not live in the Konohagakure. Naruto had had the choice between the barracks, and the orphanage where he had spent his first 5 years. Which is to say he had no choice. But to Tsunade, the question might as well have been a kunai, aimed at her heart. She reached into her pocket, almost expecting the small metal object contained therein to burn her fingers. I don't know, Uzumaki answered, it would be nice to have a bigger place, and some privacy. But it's a big change, and not exactly cheap. You do have another option, the medical expert said quietly, almost hoping he would not hear. Huh. Naruto grunted curiously, what does that mean, Grandma Tsunade? She sighed, no longer able to avoid the issue. She withdrew her hand, a key clenched between her fingers. Yukihana Uzumaki owned a condo, she told him. It has been maintained by the Hokage's office since her death. But as of midnight yesterday, it is now legally yours. My mom had a house. A condo, she corrected. Didn't Hinata tell you that your parents never lived together? Yeah, but, he paused, mildly humiliated. But then he got annoyed again. Wait, why am I just finding out about this now? You didn't legally own it until today, Kakashi explained. And it wasn't as if you could live there, Sakura added, it's not allowed. So, do you really think you could have resisted the temptation? Iruka interjected, it would have started with just a look. Then you would have made it a hideout. Eventually you would have all but moved in. Also, it was within the Hokage's power to sell the property to cover any expenses you might have incurred, Tsunade lectured. You were going to sell my mother's house. Naruto, she didn't say that, Hinata chided him gently, taking his left hand in both of hers. He calmed at her touch. I would never have sold Yukihana's home, Tsunade controlled her anger at the suggestion, and the gods know you gave Sarutobi-sensei more than enough reason to do so. He could not refute the truth of that statement. His eyes narrowed in thought, and he avoided looking directly at the key. What's wrong? Take it, the Hokage insisted. He raised his hand, but hesitated. I think she would have wanted you to have it, Hinata suggested. Yukihana would have wanted you to see it, or at least once, Tsunade confirmed, but if you don't like it, or aren't comfortable, you can sell it. She would be okay with that. Naruto nodded, and grasped the key. Will you come with me, tomorrow? He asked in a small voice, or I guess, later this morning at this point. Of course, Hinata squeezed his hand. The Hokage inclined her head in agreement as well. All of you. He turned to the rest. Shizune and Kakashi immediately nodded. Iruka looked back at Anko, who shrugged, but also smiled a little. We'd be happy to, Naruto's first teacher added, but Hinata caught Mitarashi mouthing, we. At her lover's back. I would be honored, the Kazekage appeared flustered at his inclusion. After Gaara's acceptance, all eyes fell on Sakura, who realized she had not said anything. Naruto's mom's place. Sounds interesting enough. Count me in, she hid her enthusiasm poorly. Thanks, everyone. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.